All righty. Welcome to our session with our academic advising team. My name is Clay Adams. I work in the Dean of Students office, which is a part of Student Affairs. We're thrilled to have you. This is the first ever virtual family weekend that we've done. This is very different. It's not exactly how we wanted to do it, but we're making the most of it. And I just want to thank you, each and every one of our parents and family members who have joined us. Clearly, from your attendance and engagement and participation, we made the right call to create some sessions and do this virtually. And I'm thrilled to have an incredible group of panelists here to talk a little bit about the Academic Advising Center, and more specifically, how our students can benefit from the specialized academic advising team that we have and the approach that we take. So you're going to get a lot in this session. As a few reminders just for the team and for all of our participants, what I am going to do is introduce one of our panelists who will introduce his team. They have some prepared remarks that they would like to make. Upon completion of those formalized remarks, we are going to take questions that you have. If you can provide your questions in the chat, we will take those and farm those out to our panelists and our guests here. One of my colleagues who's kind of behind the scenes here with me, Grace Sullivan, she's a part of our Parent Family Programs team. You'll be hearing from her in addition to our panelists. She may be responding directly to some of your questions, or she may be giving some other cues to the group. So don't be surprised if you receive some of those. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dean Rabner, who is the director of our Academic Advising Center and also holds an appointment within our faculty, and certainly is one of the senior advisors in the Trinity College of Arts and Sciences. With that being shared, Dean Rabner, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Clay. Hi, everyone. My name is David Rabiner. As Clay just mentioned, I'm the director of the Academic Advising Center. We're located on East Campus behind the Marketplace. Unfortunately, we don't see too many students in our office these days, but we're still working with lots of students and doing our best to support them and help them find the academic path at Duke that's right for them. What we're going to do today, I'm just going to take just a few minutes to give you a big picture overview of how advising is structured at Duke, so you have a sense of kind of the overall advising landscape for students here. And then I'm going to turn it over to two of my colleagues in the Academic Advising Center, Sang-Hee Jang, who's one of our directors of academic engagement for global and civic opportunities, and Dr. Jules Odendahl James, who's the Director of Academic Engagement for the Arts and Humanities. And we really want to focus on the work that these specialized advisors do and really the terrific ways that they can help and support students. So I'm just going to share my screen now and just give you a quick overview of the advising network that students have at Duke. So all of your students were assigned a college advisor that they met with virtually before registering for classes early in the semester. The college advisors are faculty and staff who volunteer to work with first-year students because they just love working with students and helping students make a successful transition to Duke. They are students' primary point of contact with the advising system up until the time students declare their major, which most of our students will do in their fourth semester, but certainly sometime in their sophomore year, at which point their primary advising responsibility transitions to an advisor in their major department. Your students will meet with their, at this point, virtually meet with their college advisor in the next couple of weeks as book bagging is open for spring registration, and they meet with their advisor prior to every registration period in the first couple of years, and oftentimes in addition to that, just to touch base, to get to know one another better, and many students maintain relationships with their college advisor across their 4 years at Duke. Every student has an academic dean that was assigned to them when they started out. They'll have the same academic dean for all 4 years. Deans step in to help students when they may be struggling with personal issues, with health issues. They can intervene with faculty to get students the support they need. Deans monitor students' progress towards graduation and make sure that students are taking care of the requirements that they'll need to graduate. We monitor that actually pretty closely. Deans also are just another person in Students Advising Network to serve as an advisor, as a mentor. All of our deans have been at Duke for quite some time typically and know a lot about the university, and just another person for students to sort of bounce their ideas and plans off of. Our directors of academic engagement, you'll be hearing from them directly. So all I'll say about them at this point is they are really a specialized advising resource that, as far as we know, is pretty unique to Duke. And is really the reason why I would say that every single student at Duke can have an incredibly positive and profitable advising experience if just by reaching out and connecting with our directors of academic engagement. For short, we call them DAEs, and students can go onto the Advising Center website and book an appointment online, a 1-hour appointment with the DAE at any time that they want, as often as they want. And again, you'll be hearing from 2 of our DAEs shortly. We also have a great group of peer advisors. Peer advisors are students that are sophomores through seniors. It's a diverse group of students in terms of their backgrounds, in terms of their academic interests and majors, in terms of the different kinds of co-curricular experiences that they've had. They're trained to provide advising from a student-centered perspective and can answer questions for students that obviously those of us who are not students are not able to answer as well. Duke has a robust pre-professional advising system. We have the most experienced pre-law advisor in the country who's been at it for over 50 years. We have a pre-business advisor, and we have an incredibly strong health professions advising office. All students who might be considering pre-health, they have a pre-health advisor that's been assigned to them from the moment they set foot on campus. And students who are interested in a health career path, which at Duke typically, but not always, means medical school. We strongly encourage students to connect with their pre-health advisor in their first year. But beyond kind of pre-med kind of advising, there are specialized advisors for students interested in nursing, in dentistry, in physical therapy. So it's really a fabulous resource for our students. Obviously, faculty can become the most, or certainly some of the most important advisors for students. We encourage students to get to know their faculty, have as a goal getting to know at least one faculty member well each semester. Our advising partners that we work most closely with are the Career Center. We really encourage students to get over to the Career Center in their first year. The Career Center is actually the strongest advocate for, or one of the strongest advocates for, a liberal arts education on campus. And they can dispel a lot of the misconceptions and misunderstandings that students often have about the connection or the link between their major and their career, and really encourage students to pursue, in terms of their academic interests, those departments or fields that most interest them, and really not to be overly concerned that if they don't pursue something like economics or computer science or other things that are perceived to be practical majors, that they really be creating challenges for themselves down the road when it comes to employment. And then finally, as I mentioned, our office oversees advising for students up until the time they declare, which they can't do in their first year. They have to have at least started their second year, their sophomore year. about 80% of our students will declare in the 2 weeks up against the major declaration deadline, which is always spring break, the start of spring break in their second year. And once they declare, they transition to a major advisor in their academic department. Usually that's a faculty member in the department. So before I turn it over to our DAEs, the main point I want to make is that the only person that students have to meet with for advising is their college advisor. The college advisor is the one that makes them eligible to enroll. If they don't speak with their advisor before registration, they're not able to register. All of the other people in this network who have incredible expertise in different areas of the university, they're opt-in. Students have to take a bit of initiative. They'd have to make an appointment with their dean. They'd have to go online and schedule with one of the DAEs. They'd have to reach out to a peer advisor, although the peer advisors reach out to them as well. What I will say is that we know from thousands of surveys that we collect from students about their experience with advising that overall the majority of students are quite satisfied. So last year, about 85% of the students who declared rated their experience with their college advisor as either good or excellent. About over 90% were satisfied with their advising experience overall. But most importantly, the students who report the strongest experience with advising are those that connect with multiple people in their advising network. And so we would encourage you to encourage your students to reach out, to connect with us, and to use the advising network that they have. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Sanhee John, who's one of our DAEs for global and civic engagement opportunities.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. My name is Sanhee Jung, Director of Academic Engagement for Global and Civic Engagement. We have 3 global and civic DAEs in our office, and our major role is to meet with the undergraduate students, especially in their first and second years, to discuss their personal and academic interests and help them navigate Duke's landscape and find the pathway that best suits their interests and goals. Duke has so many opportunities, and it's actually very hard to learn about all of them from one place. Enter the DAEs. We have partnership with many offices across the campus to gather information and new opportunities, especially around global and civic engagement opportunities, and share that information with the students tailored to each individual's unique situation and interests. This is an opt-in service, as David mentioned. Students choose to make an appointment with us, and they can meet with multiple DAEs as they want. Since there are disciplinary DAEs as well, you will hear from Dr. OJ. So when a student makes an appointment, they submit the topics they want to talk about. Typically, they want to discuss about all the opportunities, especially study abroad, research, and internship opportunities, and also about which major, minor, and certificate programs they should choose. In the past, we used to meet in our office on East Campus, which is conveniently located for first-year students. And now, obviously, we are all meeting on Zoom. But meetings on Zoom have been working very well. And typically, our meeting goes for about 45 minutes to 1 hour. And this year, because of the unusual circumstances, I always open the meeting by asking the students how's the campus life has been if they are on campus, and if they are connecting from home, I ask them how's the life from home. And surprisingly, students are quite resilient and positive about their situation. Those at home say they feel they are lucky to stay home safely with their family and be able to take online classes. And many of the students on campus say that they are enjoying living here, and it has been better than what they had expected. And they are all appreciative of being able to come to campus and meet friends in person and not being stuck at home. Then I asked them about their background, what kind of high school they went, what extracurricular activities they did, and what academic interests they have at Duke. From there, the conversation takes different routes based on what the student shares with me. Sometimes it's very focused, like a sophomore who really wants to explore global health field abroad, doing an internship, also using Spanish. Then I dive into giving the overview of the study abroad opportunities at Duke and go for that niche the student is looking for. There are unique study abroad programs offered by School of International Training, and their programs are around specific global themes, including global health. Then I show them the website, skimming through many different options like Argentina or Chile program that has internship component in it, and explain the details of the program. Then the student gets fascinated about all the programs, and I tell them how to proceed with the application at the Duke Global Education Office and encourage them to make an appointment with the geo advisor who's covering that region that the student is interested in. Many times, however, the conversation is broader. The student is interested, so let's say the first year student is interested in many fields and not sure which ones to choose as a major or double major, minor, and certificate because there are so many choices, it's overwhelming. For example, recently I met a student who, after changing her mind several times about the major, finally decided that she could settle on public policy major because it's interrelated with so many other fields that she's interested. Then the question was what to do with her other interests. She was interested in the human rights certificate, education minor, journalism, environmental sustainability, and ethics and society certificates, and did not know which direction she should go. Then I asked deeper questions and listened why she is interested in each subject. After that, I asked her to take a moment and just observe all these topics and ask her what comes up first as the most important thing to her. And then she said, the human rights certificate. Then I say, focus on that, and all the other subjects, journalism, education, ethics, those can be explored and the knowledge can be acquired through her public policy major because she could take couple elective courses that's connected on those subjects. That could also leave her more time to take other courses in those fields as she discovers interesting courses as she moves forward, rather than trying to fit in another minor or another certificate program. Sometimes students are wavering and feeling lost. Students feel a lot of peer pressure from other students who are already in a set course. For example, pre-med students or those who are very sure that they're gonna join the finance industry. Because those students are already acting very quickly, forging interest groups and networking and trying to find internships, others who are not in that group may feel that they are kind of lagging behind and they pick up a sense of urgency. Then I tell them it is absolutely okay that they do not know which direction that they should go right now because they are in the first year, the first semester, which is the exact time and opportunity to explore all these options rather than worrying about that their future pathway is not yet set. Basically normalizing their feeling by sharing other student stories and alum stories. These meetings are all considered as overview and exploration type of meeting, which is most typical in a meeting with a first year student. And in sophomore year, when they are quite sure which major they are going to choose and they would like to discuss the study abroad options in their junior year, we offer a 4-year planning meeting. Then we examine all the courses they have taken so far and discuss courses that they can take while being abroad that also counts toward their major or minor certificate if they are planning. And depending on which abroad program they want to participate. And we could, that discussion could have a wide range based on the student's foreign language preference or desire to explore certain region or certain theme. Also, before students begin their global experience like Duke Engage or study abroad, we reach out to students to discuss how to prepare in a pre-departure meeting. Also, after they come back from those global experience abroad, we reach out to them to help them debrief their experience and how to connect what they have learned abroad and bring them back to their academic and campus life at Duke in a post-participation debriefing meeting. These meetings are very helpful not only to the students, but also for me and other students, because through these meetings, I gather lots of very up-to-date information from the students about those programs that they have participated and relay that to other students who are considering those programs. So students also like the opportunity to revisit their experience with someone asking thoughtful questions, who understands what it is like being abroad for a long time, immersed in the culture, and come back to the same place, which may not seem the same anymore because they have changed. Finally, we also offer senior exit interviews, reaching out to senior students whom we have met before and help them reflect on their Duke experiences and prepare for the post-Duke world. Again, this is very helpful because I always ask them what they wish they had known as a first year, or things that they do differently if they go back time. And seniors often say, oh, first years don't take 2 hard courses in the first semester. Wait until later, at least second semester, when you have more friends who can help you. Or they say, don't stretch yourself thin over too many commitments. They regret that. Or take statistics course earlier because it's more, it's very helpful to have that skill before doing any internship or research. So most of them also say that study abroad experience was one of the highlights of their 4 years, because they really grow a lot and gain much more confidence about themselves after learning that they can actually manage their life on their own. And also we keep all our notes after meeting with the students. And whenever there are new opportunities coming to our way, and we send out to those students who may be interested in. For example, there was a Fuqua Business School, which is master's program and up level. They created a mentoring program for undergraduate students who are interested in business. So then I go back to our file and then pull out all the students who said that they are interested in business route. So I sent out this, email to all those students saying, yeah, the mentoring program deadline is this weekend, apply for it. And I get responses saying, oh, this is great, thank you so much. So that's how we, it's like symbiotic relationship between DAEs and all the campus partners and the students. We really share a lot of information, multiple directions. Then now Jules will tell you about disciplinary DAE's role.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kendall James. I'm actually going to turn my time, at least at the start, over to a student. I am fortunate enough to have a senior who has done disciplinary meetings throughout her time here. Omolola Sansui. Sanui who is here, and she has to leave at 1:15. So I want to make sure that she has a time to talk about essentially sort of how does what Sanghi just described in terms of sort of how the DAE, from the DAE perspective, working with students, what does it do for the student? And sort of what are the things that she remembers that are most critical in terms of both what brought her in the door, but also sort of how to move from meeting to meeting, which I think is what students often learn from conversations with directors of academic engagement, is how to take information in, assess it, and then move to the next resource that can give you more information to do. So Omolola, would you unmute yourself and hey.
Hello. Sorry, I was switching up from gallery view, but good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Yes, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experiences meeting with Dr. OJ freshman year, and then I've met with her throughout those years as well, too. And it's exactly like, I don't know, DAE, Jung, I don't know what to call you, professor, but it's exactly the way she described it. And I came in freshman year, I think I was very much in the camp of, I didn't exactly want to do something pre-professional because I've always really been interested in the arts and humanities. But I was holding on to like the safety net of wanting to do something pre-professional because I just was not sure what that meant for me and what that looked like at Duke. And it was halfway through freshman, I'm pretty sure the first semester of freshman year, and I was just like, I kind of just need to bounce my ideas off of someone. I need someone who probably has a greater perspective on like what's going on at Duke. And it's a little bit hard, I think, initially for freshmen who are more interested in the arts and humanities pathways, because it is easy to see your friends who are a little bit more secure in those like finance, business, pre-professional pathways, and then say, all right, where's my like next step? Where's my like how to do this and this and this? And so I just went to Dr. OJ and I was like, I love all of this. Like, I love writing and I love creating. I love filmmaking. I like videos. I like moving. I like this. Well, and I just like word vomited for a really long time. And I think it was really wonderful because she kind of took my word vomit and gave me actual tangible things that Duke could offer in terms of exploring those routes more. I remember freshman year, she mentioned like Studio Duke and Duke in LA and just connecting with Duke alumni. She actually connected me with one Duke alumni who's doing something similar to what I'm interested in. And it was just hearing those little pockets of, these are ways you can move your interests into things that Duke has to offer, that I think was really influential for me in my Duke journey, because I was able to kind of see my interests be actualized. I was able to test it out. I ended up doing Duke in LA my sophomore year, and I know most students don't go away until their junior year, but I think it was receiving that confidence early on that there is a space for the arts, there is a space for the humanities. You might have to do a little bit more digging on your own. You might have to do a little bit more, I guess, like the entrepreneurial spirit in this realm. But if you can find those places, then you can really tap into that here at Duke. And I loved Duke in LA, and even before leaving, I talked to Dr. OJ again. I was like, okay, so I'm back from the summer. I've done this. I did Duke Engage. Like, all these things are happening. Do you have any thoughts on what's supposed to be happening? I think as a student, I'll say one big question that always comes up to me, and I think even as a senior, despite everything, I'm always like, is this what's supposed to be happening? Like, what's going on? Like, is this it? And I think it is a little bit, it is challenging, because if you do have your friends that are just more on a direct pathway, you do second guess yourself, even if it is like your really big interest, even if it's something that you really wanted to do. So I would just say from my perspective, it's been really encouraging to be able to talk to someone who has experience here at Duke, who has experience in what I'm interested in, and kind of get really valuable feedback, know what programs I can take advantage of at Duke, but then also feel confident when I need to like back out of something too. And I think, yeah, I spoke with Dr. OJ again junior year, and I think realizing that I had all these interests, but ultimately sometimes you have to like let certain things go to do other things as well too. And that's something that I remember a quote Dr. OJ said once, and she was like, well, you can always pick it up. It's like on a bookshelf. You can come back to it, and you don't have to like try to read all the books on the bookshelf. And so that was really helpful, knowing that at a certain point I can kind of let go of every single interest that I have, and continue to hone in on the interests that Duke would best fit me for right now, for like this point in my life. And is there any other topic I should tap into as well too? Because we're vomiting again.
Well, no, I think what we've also had a conversation is that you came late to an interest in data science, but it was more organically through then doing what you wanted to do about the arts, was then sort of like unlocking this thing that became a point of analysis. You're also, as a film student, you know, sort of doing film, but you're also doing a major that has a kind of theory and literary background to it. So data science, but these things sort of emerged organically because I think you followed what you wanted to do at the start, right? Which was kind of, you know, making an artistry and creativity, and then became sort of a landscape of how do I want to know things, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I should probably I should preface with like what I'm doing here too. So I'm a senior and I'm majoring in literature with a concentration in film and media studies, and ideally like pursuing filmmaking. And that's what I've been doing here at Duke, and trying to make short films, but also learning how to write, learning how to tell stories. And as Dr. OJ mentioned too, I think just like as a freshman, I just really loved stories and I really loved narratives. But I think just knowing that that's what I loved and wanting to see more of that did lead me to these other ways of reading narratives, because as we were talking, like I would come into like, oh, well, I learned in this class that like you can see narratives through like data. And that was so random to me. Like I'm not a data person at all. Like it's not fun for me. That's not where my heart lies. But like knowing that it's just another perspective of how I can understand something that I'm interested in was just so like eye-opening for me. And also seeing all these disciplines, like even though I primarily met with Dr. OJ, I know there is a civic engagement and also science-oriented and also pre-professional. There are a lot of DAEs that like intersect in different spaces too. And recognizing that I can still use my interest and my focus in arts and humanities to connect with these other DAEs and learn more about like how their disciplines are seeing the work that I'm interested in as well too. And I think that really, as even though my major seems like really focused on like literature in that world, because it's part of my interest and because Duke has all these opportunities to talk to people who are doing what you're interested in, but in a different way, I always feel like I have this like wealth of, well, if I want to learn something, I'll just talk to someone who knows more than I do. And they can give me like all this great advice about it. And so I'm always curious about like, now I have this interest in data science, maybe I should talk to like the DAE that's focused in on that, just to hear what she would say. Not even that I need to, I don't even need to, it's just like, just to hear what she would say. Cause you always you learn so much more when I don't know, I feel like if you have a smart person to talk to, you might as well just use it.
Well, and sometimes that needs a little bit of practice when you sit in a class with somebody, you're learning from them, they're grading you. That can feel intimidating to just sort of have a kind of random conversation about how does this work or what would be other research paths. So part of too what we can kind of rehearse in our meetings with students is about how to ask the question, both how to approach the professor and let it feel not intimidating, but also to lead with what you're really intrigued by, because then that's a great way in even to somebody that you don't know, right? So figuring out strategies and kind of holding a pre-version of the conversation that you're ultimately going to have, then both encourages you to have it, and also when we come back and unpack it and sort of go, well, what did that make you think about? Which is even what Song Hee was talking about in terms of returning students from study abroad, right? Really finding time to reflect and a partner to reflect with about how many different things, what you just had either in the classroom or a co-curricular experience, what that now makes you want to do next. We can do that at a kind of broad disciplinary level as DAEs, that sometimes even the major, you're going to want to have a very focused conversation on kind of research or on a project-based work. So that has to have a kind of focus to it, that something with a DAE can be a little bit more wide ranging. And, you know, we can share work. I got to see Omalola's work as, you know, sort of you made stuff. And that's, again, a sort of relationship back and forth, because that helps me tell the next student what's possible, right? Both that sometimes our students are really great ambassadors when I sort of poke them and say, hey, would you maybe talk to this first year student who's feeling a little bit isolated, or is really interested in a similar thing that you were interested in, as well as being able to share their work as examples to students about how, when you can seize some Duke resources, what's possible within that. So cool. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here on a Saturday.
Yeah. No worries. I'm glad. I hope this was helpful for, I don't know, any of the parents or students listening. I highly recommend just reaching out to the DAEs if there are any students on this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. I put in the chat the link to the social science DAEs and the natural quantitative science DAEs. There are 3 disciplinary DAEs, 1 to each of the disciplinary units at Duke. We are professionals ourselves. We hold doctorate degrees. I am a professional theater artist, so I'm working in the arts at the same time I am advising students about sort of careers and pathways within that. Sometimes we teach. We also can direct other programs. I'm the co-director of Story Plus, which is a summer research opportunity for qualitative and humanities research. And I chair the Benenson Committee on the Arts, which is an award for art students to do project-based work over the summer. That's a unique opportunity to Duke, and even graduating seniors can apply for this opportunity. So you sort of heard, again, a lot of our process with students is iterative. It's based in what the student has as their need to talk to us about at the moment. It is referral. We send them then from us to other places. And sometimes that's just sort of back into themselves, thinking about what they just learned and how they want to do the next thing. We hope that students come back over time. I'm really lucky that Omalola decided to return, because I can learn things from her, as well as her interest, and then the need for what she's interested in to be actionable changes from when she was a first year to when she was to now that she's a senior. So, as well as the world around it has changed as well. So I think that the message would also be, there are a lot of things to do at Duke, and sometimes it can feel almost overwhelming to choose that. I think a DAE appointment can help you set some priorities that will then help you make next choices. And if you make that a regular part of your advising work, I think you will find places at Duke that you didn't know existed. And you can, again, I'm very grateful she mentioned the choice. You can decide to do or not do something and feel confident in the decision that you made. That is an opening instead of a closing into the next thing that might be possible for you at Duke.
Thank you, Jules. Before we open up for questions, but I just wanted to emphasize that, I work in the office, but I'm a huge fan of our DAEs. They know more about opportunities and what's available for undergraduates in their area of specialization than anybody else at the university. And every single student at Duke, not to be a dead horse, but they can go onto the Advising Center website and book a 1-hour appointment with any or all of these incredible experts whenever they want. And so, if a student does that, there is no way in the world that they will not get tremendous value from that time, and value in a way that can really influence in a very positive way their trajectory of what they do at Duke. And so, again, I would, anything you could do to encourage your students to connect with us, to connect with the DAEs if they haven't already, that would be very, very helpful and valuable to your student. So with that, Clay, if there are questions, we're happy to try to answer them.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to jump back in and just say thank you really to our panelists and presenters here. As you can tell just from their remarks, there's incredible care and thoughtfulness and intentionality behind the way that we support your students through the advising process. I am going to ask Grace to put out some of our first questions that we received, but a quick reminder to those of you who are sending in questions, we'd like to encourage you to think through your question and make it not specific to maybe your current student, but something that's more general in nature where everyone can benefit from the panelist response. I hope that makes sense. But Grace, do you mind asking a couple of those that came in?
Absolutely. I'm going to launch a few of them together. So there are many questions about how students in different years can get involved. So can the Academic Advising Center help first years find research opportunities, internships, think about that, and then all the way up to, is it too late for a senior to come to the Academic Advising Center?
Jules, you want to take that?
I'm trying to think if I'm muted or not.
No, you're not.
Okay.
We hear you.
It's never too early and it's never too late. Especially for arts and humanities, I'll speak just specifically to that. I have a lot of students who have sort of pushed off interest in some of these fields, and then all of a sudden when they're seniors, they can't stop it anymore, and they want to get involved and explore sort of media industries and entertainment industries. That's exactly a time where sitting down and sort of reviewing what you've done so far and how to strategize specifically about what's ahead of you. It's a great time, because then the things that you have access to as a senior are different than what you would have access, the skill sets that you're going to bring, even if you're new to a particular kind of field. So that's the never too late. The never too early is also, sometimes it's good to have a meeting, because also what you need to hear is you don't have to make a decision like this right now. Right? You can focus on other things, or you can explore at this particular time, or let's strategize between feeling pressure to make really big decisions, and you do have some deadlines, right? The college timeline doesn't necessarily change, but how to negotiate and decide the kind of stress that you're going to carry with that, how to think about your classes in a particular kind of way when you're making decisions about majors. You're giving yourself time, and a time to kind of learn and reflect when you meet with a DAE. And that can also put the brakes on some things that might be holding you back from really sort of sitting and thinking with what you want to do. You'll be more prepared to make strong strategic decisions if you take the time early to kind of let somebody sit and hear your story and help you figure out where to start, where you want to start, and how you want to prioritize.
I'm going to build off of that because I think it goes right in line. There's a couple of big picture questions that were asked when it comes to major declaration. What does that look like? What is the timeline behind it? And how would the Academic Advising Center be utilized within that process? How can they think through some of the major declaration or certificates with students?
So I'll start on that. So students declare their major with their college advisor. There's a formal process of major declaration that students would work through with their college advisor that's explained in detail. If you go to the Advising Center website and you look at the For Students tab, you can see we have a video, we have text instructions about what's involved. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of the process. But in terms of the thinking it through, that is something that students ideally are starting from before they arrive at Duke, and certainly once they get here, there are discussions that they'll have with their advisor about their academic interest and the different paths that could lead to at Duke. The disciplinary DAEs, as you just heard from Jules, there's a disciplinary DAE in the social sciences, in the arts and humanities, in the natural and quantitative sciences. and they know what's going on in the departments in their division at a pretty meaningful level. And so a student who might, for example, be interested in the sciences, but isn't necessarily sure which discipline within the sciences is best for them, they could sit down with Dr. Harrell, who's our science DAE, and she can talk with them about what different departments require, what kinds of research opportunities are available to students in different departments. Honestly, some students come in, they've got their mind made up already, and that can be great. Other students come in and they have no idea, but they're excited to try a whole bunch of different things. Their advisor is one kind of thought partner to help them kind of navigate that space. And then the DAEs, of course, are fabulous thought partners for all of that. If you go to our website, we also have we just put up a new, Jules, can you put the link in the chat for the Majors Fair site? We just last week actually built some pages on our site that link to every single major and certificate program at Duke, and the most relevant pages for undergrads on different department and program websites. Many departments provided videos from faculty, from students talking about their experience in their discipline, and the videos are great. I watched a bunch of them as they came in, and it almost made me want to be a student. Again, you really hear the excitement and just the joy, honestly, that gets conveyed. We think that'll be a great resource for students. We'd encourage you to take a look at it as well.
That's excellent. When I think about that and you see the Majors Fair, that's one of many, many decisions that our students have to make. And there's so many options. I hear this a lot from parents and families, and certainly the students that I work with, that they just can't take advantage of all there is to do at Duke. And I actually say that's a great thing, and I don't want them to be able to take advantage of everything. I think one of the great resources and values of time with our DAEs is the opportunity to think about prioritization. And so I want to just ask our DAEs on this call, how do you work with students on that? There's so many options. How do you help them think through prioritizing their most important resource, which is their time?
Yeah, I think it's really, we are a good listener, because we ask them, tell us all the things that you are interested in. And they tell us. And then we ask them, oh, why? When did you get interested in that topic? What makes you get interested in that? So even for pre-med students who are locked in, oh, I'm a pre-med. And then we ask, when did you decided to do that and why? And then by listening to their answer, you get the sense that this person has a real personal story of struggling with disease and they really want to contribute, or a lot of other people around the student are in that business and they think it's a good profession and respectable and I should do it. Or others who think that, you heard of it and then probably I should do it just to keep an option. So from their answer, you already know that what are the level of commitment that they have, even though they say, I'm interested in all of these. So I think it's, at least I think, the best way to really tear out all the information from the students and really dig in their motivations and their desires, their goals, is by being a good listener. That's how I navigate.
I would say too that also asking students when they're responding positively to a class, what are they responding positively to? I often break it down into 3 components of thinking about, are you responding to the content? Are you responding to the work that you're doing, the way of analysis that's happening in the class? Or are you responding to the professor? Because sometimes we could just sit, I have colleagues I could just sit and listen to all day about anything, right? And in thinking about that, if all three line up in a particular class or in a particular research experience, then that's a clue that yes, this, not just what I'm learning, but how I'm learning it. That means then the major is or the discipline is probably got a lot for me to excite my intellectual curiosity. If it's only one of those things that I'm really responding to, then if I let go of it, I'm going to go to the place where I'm going to find more of the things that work all together. Instead of it's easy or it's hard or it should be hard or it should be easy. Do you know what I mean? Like the ways that we have, I think from high school, when you have limited choice in what you can do, to break down sort of how do you respond to things and then make the next choice about maximizing as opposed to letting go. I think a lot of people are loath to put an idea to bed without some way of thinking about what I've now chosen to pursue has these kinds of paths of response for me that I'm going to get something out of. So it's about kind of both identifying what you're responding to and then how to take that response and make it something that helps you feel secure about the next set of options that you're going to encounter.
That's excellent. Just wonderful insight, and thank you for that. Next question that I have is about Pratt and students that are in engineering. Do DAEs, are they available to students in engineering? And how would they go about utilizing the Academic Advising Center, but specifically our DAEs as a resource?
Yeah, the global and civic DAEs, we actually meet with a lot of Pratt students who are interested in engaging in those global experiences, especially study abroad. So we see Pratt students and how do they utilize our service, make an appointment on the website.
I would say that as well, that Pratt students who are interested in the arts, and there are a few of them either in terms of design or in filmmaking, it's the same kind of thing. It's again, they have limited time frame. So about coursework, we might have a limited discussion, but about co-curricular opportunities where they have a little bit more autonomy over what they're doing, we can have a lot of discussion. And there are some new design specifically, sort of accessible design, universal design, UX, UI design that are in Trinity opportunities there for those students in Pratt to take advantage of. So again, you have an interest, find the person who has the specialty of knowledge that you want and just make an appointment.
Excellent. And somehow these sessions just fly by. I want to give an opportunity to our panelists to provide any final thoughts or reflections, and most importantly, maybe how you can find out, maybe share how you can find additional information about the work they're doing. They've provided a lot of great links in the chat, but how you can reach out to them for additional questions that you may have.
Yeah, I would just say, it's not uncommon for us to get questions from parents, and we're always delighted to engage with parents and try to answer their questions. We have a general advising mailbox. It's just advising@duke.edu, and you can email questions. We're happy to set up times to talk. We can't talk about specific details about a student's classes or academic record or stuff like that, but we can certainly talk about the ways that advising can support your student and make specific recommendations about who they might want to connect with. I hope you've gotten a good feel for today. I said that last year's sophomores, about 85% of the students who declared said that the overall guidance that they got from their college advisor, remember that's the person we assign them that they have to meet with, that the overall guidance was either good or excellent. And about over half said it was excellent. And that means there's still about 15% who weren't all that happy. That happens, we wish it were 100%, but it will never be that. But what I hope you got from today is that, even if a student doesn't hit it off for whatever reason with their advisor, they can still have an absolutely fabulous experience with advising at Duke that can really shape their time at Duke in a very positive way. They just got to get on our website, reach out, book an appointment with the DAEs, speak with their dean, connect with the peer advisors, meet with the Career Center, with the Academic Resource Center. There are so many people who, honestly are just kind of, bending over backwards, trying to help support students and help students get the best experience for themselves at Duke that they can. And, that's what we love to do. And we look forward to, even in the midst of this pandemic, to keep on doing it.
There's a longer time for winter break this
Yeah.
year. This is a great time to reach out. Our office is available during those times, and it's a wonderful time in between the first and second semester. You can still make changes to your schedule for spring if you have a fruitful meeting, or you can also, if you're a sophomore, if there's any of those as well in this space, think about your major declaration in that particular time frame with us as well.
Well, I don't have any more to add. I just wish good luck to everyone.
Thanks, Sandy.
I just want to finish by saying thank you again to the Academic Advising Center, the DAEs, the team here, our student who was with us earlier. It's always wonderful to have their perspective. And of course, to all of you, our parents and families who are spending time with us this weekend. We do hope that this has been meaningful for you and that you've learned something and that you take a great deal of comfort in knowing that there's dedicated, thoughtful, intentional people that have created an intense and deep academic network to support your students. We hope that we'll see you at other sessions for the rest of the weekend. And with that being said, thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.